Taman Park stood in the vast chamber of the Galactic Council, his hands clasped behind his back as he listened to yet another rejection. The chamber was enormous, built to accommodate hundreds of different species. Some breathed methane, others floated in containment fields, and a few existed as pure energy. After 83 years of membership, humanity still occupied the lowest tier of seating. Far from the central podium, where the real powers gathered, Council Speaker Vareth, a towering reptilian creature with scales that shimmered like oil, dismissed the human petition with a wave of his clawed hand. His voice echoed through the translation devices embedded in every seat. The human request for expansion beyond Sector 15 is denied. Again, your species has not demonstrated the maturity required for additional territory. Taman had heard this speech before, word for word. He had been Earth's ambassador for 12 years, and in that time he had achieved nothing of substance. Every request was denied. Every proposal was rejected. Humanity contributed advanced medical technology, shared agricultural breakthroughs, and helped maintain peace in 3 different border disputes. None of it mattered. The other council members barely looked at him. To them, humans were newcomers. Children playing at galactic politics. The fact that humanity had avoided all conflicts, maintained perfect diplomatic relations, and followed every rule to the letter was seen as proof of their weakness, not their wisdom. As the session ended, Taman gathered his data tablets and walked toward the exit. A Drethic counselor passed him in the corridor, deliberately bumping his shoulder. The insectoid creature's mandibles clicked in what Taman recognized as laughter. He said nothing. He simply continued walking. Back in his quarters, Taman found a priority message waiting. It was from Director Jiho Lee at Strategic Defense Command on Earth. The message was brief and coded. But Taman had been doing this long enough to read between the lines. One of humanity's research colonies had stopped transmitting. All attempts at contact had failed. He immediately requested an emergency council session to investigate the silent colony. The request was denied within the hour. Not enough evidence of a threat, they said. Probably just technical difficulties, they claimed. They would look into it when time permitted. Tae-Min knew better. He authorized a human scout ship to investigate independently. What they found turned his blood cold. The colony was gone. Not abandoned, but destroyed. Buildings reduced to rubble. 12,000 people dead. The evidence was clear. This had been a military strike, precise and brutal. Weapons signatures matched Drethic technology. Tae-Min brought the evidence to the council 3 days later. He stood at the speaker's podium, his voice steady despite the rage burning in his chest. He showed images of the destroyed homes, the burned fields, the mass graves his people had found. Council Speaker Vareth barely glanced at the evidence. This colony was established without proper authorization, he said. The humans expanded beyond their permitted zones. This is an internal matter. 12,000 civilians are dead, Taman said quietly. Men, women, children. They were farmers and scientists. This was not a military installation. This was murder. The Drethic ambassador rose from his seat, his voice buzzing through the translator. The colony was in disputed territory. They were warned to leave. They did not. The consequences are their own fault. Taman stared at the insectoid creature. There was no dispute. There was no warning. You attacked a peaceful settlement without provocation. Vareth slammed his staff against the floor. Enough. The council has reviewed the evidence. The human colony was illegally established. No action will be taken. Furthermore, humanity is hereby censured for unauthorized expansion. You will pay reparations to the Drethic Collective for the inconvenience of having to enforce territorial boundaries. The chamber erupted in clicking, buzzing, and various sounds of approval from the other council members. The Drethic ambassador's mandibles spread wide in satisfaction. Tae-Min stood perfectly still. He looked around the chamber at the faces carapaces, and energy forms of the species who called themselves the leaders of the galaxy. He saw contempt. He saw amusement. He saw species who believed themselves superior in every way that mattered. He reached up slowly and removed the ambassador's insignia from his collar. The small golden pin had been worn by every human ambassador since Earth joined the Council. He held it in his palm for a moment, then placed it gently on the podium. "I see," he said quietly. His voice was calm, almost conversational. "Thank you for clarifying humanity's position in this council." Rotha's eyes narrowed. "You would resign over this?" "Typical human drama," Notamen said. "I am not resigning. I am simply acknowledging reality. You have made your position clear. We have made ours." He turned and walked toward the exit. As he reached the massive doors, he paused and looked back one final time. The council members were already moving on to other business. Dismissing him entirely, Tae-Min activated his personal communicator. He entered a code he had memorized years ago, but never thought he would actually use. The message was simple, just 3 words, but they would change everything. Protocol, Valkyrie, execute. On Earth, Director Jiho Lee received the message in his underground command center. He had been waiting for this moment, hoping it would never come, but preparing for it nonetheless. He looked at the faces of his senior staff, gathered around the holographic display. "Gentlemen, ladies," he said quietly, "the restraints are off. Activate all shadow projects. Bring the Ghost Fleet online. Contact Commanders Hannah Kim and Kwano. Tell them it is time." Across human space, in hidden shipyards and secret facilities, systems began powering up. Ships that had been disguised as civilian vessels dropped their false hulls. Weapons platforms hidden in asteroid fields came online. Soldiers who had been training in the dark for decades received their activation orders. For 83 years, humanity had played the game by the Council's rules. They had been patient. They had been diplomatic. They had endured insults and restrictions and humiliations. They had done this because they believed in peace, in cooperation, in building something better together. But the Council had mistaken patience for weakness. They had mistaken restraint for inability. They were about to learn the difference the galaxy was about to see. What humanity had been building while everyone else laughed at them. Yuna Choi stumbled off the emergency shuttle at Luna Station, her clothes still covered in dust from the colony. She was 24 years old, a botanist who had gone to the frontier to study alien plant life. Now she was the only survivor of New Haven Colony. Carrying a data chip that contained the last moments of 12,000 lives, the station's medical staff tried to take her to the hospital wing, but she refused. She demanded to speak with someone from Strategic Defense Command immediately. She clutched the data chip like it was the most precious thing in the universe. Because it was within 6 hours, she was sitting across from Director Jiho Lee in a secure conference room deep beneath the lunar surface. Intelligence Officer Mina Rue sat beside him, her fingers flying across a holographic keyboard as she analyzed the data. Yuna's voice was hoarse from screaming, from crying, from breathing in smoke and dust. "They came at dawn," she said. "No warning. No communication. Just ships appearing in orbit and firing. I was in the western greenhouse, almost 2 kilometers from the main settlement. That is the only reason I am alive." Jiho watched the footage on the main display. The Drethic warships had fired precisely, methodically destroying every structure. When people tried to flee, the ships hunted them down. When emergency shelters activated, the ships targeted them specifically. This was not a border skirmish. This was extermination. Mina looked up from her terminal, her face pale. "Director, I have been cross-referencing the timeline with Council communication logs. The attack was authorized. There is a coded transmission from Council Security to the Drethic Fleet Command, sent 14 hours before the attack. The authorization code belongs to Speaker Varath himself." Jiho felt something cold settle in his stomach. They planned this. They wanted to send us a message. "Yes," Mina said. "I have found similar authorizations for 3 other incidents in the past decade. Minor human outposts that disappeared. We thought they were accidents or technical failures. They were not. The Council has been systematically eliminating human settlements they deem problematic." Yuna slammed her fist on the table. "What are we going to do? We have to tell everyone. We have to show them what they did." "You will," Jiho promised. Ambassador Park is already on his way back to the council. He will present this evidence. But Yuna, you need to understand something. The council may not care. 3 days later, Taemin stood once again at the council podium. This time, he was not alone. Yuna stood beside him, and Mina transmitted the data directly to every council member's display. The evidence was undeniable. Footage of Drethic ships firing on civilians, communications showing the attack was premeditated, authorization codes proving council involvement, Yuna's testimony, raw and heartbreaking, describing how she watched her friends burn. When the presentation ended, silence filled the chamber. Taemin waited, hoping against hope that he was wrong about what would happen next. Council Speaker Varath rose slowly. He looked at the evidence, then at Taemin, then at Yuna. His reptilian face showed no emotion. The council has reviewed the information presented. We find that the human colony of New Haven was established in violation of territorial agreements. The settlers were warned repeatedly to relocate. They refused. The Drethic Collective acted within their rights to protect their borders. Taemin felt the last thread of his restraint snap. Warned, there were children there, families. They had no weapons, no military installations. This was genocide. It was law enforcement, Vareth countered. The humans refuse lawful orders. The consequences are unfortunate but necessary. Furthermore, this council votes to formally censure humanity for continued unauthorized expansion. You will withdraw from all colonies established in the past 20 years and pay reparations to the Drethic Collective for the costs of enforcement. Around the chamber, council members signaled their agreement. A few abstained, but none voted against the measure. The Drethic ambassador rose and approached the podium, stopping directly in front of Yuna. Perhaps this will teach your kind to respect the rules, the insectoid creature buzzed. His mandibles spread in what humans had learned to recognize as a smile. You are pets, playing at civilization. Know your place. Yuna lunged forward, but Taemin caught her arm. He pulled her back gently, his face calm despite the storm raging inside him. We know our place now, Taemin said quietly. Thank you for making it clear. He turned to leave Yuna and Mina following. As they walked through the corridor back to the human section, Taemin activated his communicator. Director Lee, they have made their choice. Authorization granted for full activation. On Earth, in a command center that officially did not exist, Admiral Daeyeon Song stood before a massive tactical display. At 58 years old, he had spent his entire career preparing for a war he hoped would never come. Now that hope was gone. Beside him, Commander Kwano reviewed deployment orders for the Ghost Fleet. These were ships that existed in no registry. Built in shipyards that appeared on no maps, crewed by soldiers who had volunteered to disappear from official records. All Shadow Project facilities are reporting ready status, Kwan said. The Ghost Fleet is at full power. Weapon designer Suji Han confirms all new systems are operational. Cyber warfare specialist Jimin Beek has infiltration protocols standing by. Jiho entered the command center, his face grim. The council has voted. They blame us for the massacre. They demand reparations and withdrawal from our colonies. Daeyeon nodded slowly. Then the restraints are off. The restraints are off, Jiho confirmed. We gave them every chance. We followed their rules. We tried peace. They chose this. What are our orders? Kwan asked. Jiho looked at the tactical display, showing Drethic space, council military positions, and the scattered human colonies that had endured decades of oppression. We show them what humanity has really been building for the past 50 years. We show them the cost of pushing us too far, and we start with the Drethic. They wanted to teach us a lesson. Now we teach them one. Across human space, activation codes went out. Ships powered up. Weapons came online. Soldiers who had trained in secret for decades finally received deployment orders. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's patience had not been weakness. It had been preparation, and that preparation was now complete. Captain Hannah Kim had been commanding civilian transport vessels for 11 years. At least, that was what her official record stated. The Uns Horizon was registered as a cargo hauler, moving supplies between human colonies. Its hull was painted with commercial markings. Its transponder broadcast civilian identification codes, but when the activation order came through, Hannah pressed her palm against a hidden panel beside her command chair. The bridge transformed around her. Civilian control stations retracted into the floor. Military-grade tactical displays rose to replace them. The crew members, who had been dressed as merchant spacers, moved to their real positions. Their casual attitudes replaced by the precision of trained soldiers. "Drop the skin," Hannah ordered. Outside, the Horizon's outer hull split apart in sections, revealing the warship beneath. Weapons ports opened. Shield generators activated. What had appeared to be a bulky cargo ship now showed its true form, a sleek destroyer bristling with weapons the Council had never seen. Across human space? 3,000 ships did the same thing. Transports became battle cruisers. Mining vessels revealed themselves as carriers. Research stations transformed into weapons platforms. For 50 years, humanity had been building a secret fleet, while the Council assumed they were harmless. In the asteroid belt beyond Mars, Commander Quano watched as the Ghost Fleet powered up. These ships had never pretended to be civilian. They had simply never existed in any official database. Built in hollow asteroids and hidden shipyards, they represented humanity's true military capability. Quan's flagship. The Retribution was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its hull incorporated materials that absorbed sensor scans. Its engines used quantum displacement technology that made traditional tracking impossible. Its weapons were based on principles the Council's scientists had not even theorized yet. "All Ghost Fleet units report ready status," his tactical officer announced. "We have 3,800 warships standing by," Quan smiled. The Council thought humanity had maybe 200 outdated patrol ships. They were about to discover their mistake. On Earth, in a facility buried 3 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains, weapons designer Suji Han ran final checks on systems she had spent 20 years developing. The Council restricted human weapons technology, limiting them to conventional missiles and energy weapons that were decades behind. Council standards, so Suji had built new weapons. Weapons that did not exist in Council databases. Nanite swarms that could disassemble enemy ships molecule by molecule. Singularity cannons that created miniature black holes. Quantum entanglement bombs that could destroy a target and its mirror position simultaneously. "All weapon systems are green," she reported. "Uploading firing solutions to the fleet now." In another facility, cyber warfare specialist Jimin Beek sat surrounded by holographic displays showing the Council's entire communication network. At 29, she was the youngest department head in human history. She was also the most dangerous person the galaxy had never heard of. For 12 years, Jimin had been quietly infiltrating every Council system. She had backdoors in their military networks, their civilian infrastructure, their financial systems. She could see everything they did, and they had no idea she existed. "Ready to deploy infiltration protocols," she said. "On your command, I can shut down Council communications across 14 sectors." Director Jiho stood in strategic command, watching as reports came in from across human space. The transformation was complete. Humanity was finally showing its true face. "Send the message," he ordered. Every screen in Council space suddenly displayed the same image. Taman Park, no longer dressed as an ambassador, but in the uniform of the Human Strategic Defense Force. Behind him, tactical displays showed the Ghost Fleet in all its glory. "People of the galaxy," Taman began, his voice calm and clear. "For 83 years, humanity has followed the Council's rules. We have been patient. We have been peaceful. We have endured insults and restrictions and humiliations. We did this because we believed in cooperation. We believed in building something better together." The image changed, showing footage from the New Haven massacre. Bodies in the streets. Buildings burning. Children's toys scattered among the ruins. The Council authorized this massacre. They killed 12,000 civilians to teach humanity a lesson, to remind us of our place. They wanted us to know that we are nothing, that we have no power. that we must accept whatever they choose to do to us. Taemin's expression hardened. They were wrong. We were not building civilian infrastructure. We were preparing. While you laughed at us, we were working.
While you dismissed us, we were planning.
You mistook our patience for weakness. You are about to learn the difference. The tactical display behind him expanded, showing the full Ghost Fleet, thousands of warships, each one more advanced than anything in the Council's arsenal. This is humanity without restraints. This is what we have been holding back. And it begins now. The transmission ended. For a moment, the galaxy held its breath. Then the Retribution and 15 Ghost Fleet destroyers appeared in orbit above the Drethik. Homeworld. No warning. No negotiation. Just a simple message transmitted to the surface. For a new haven, Hannah Kim's voice said, "You wanted to teach us a lesson? Now we teach you one." The first strike hit every Drethik military installation simultaneously. Orbital defense platforms vanished in bursts of light. Ground-based weapons batteries simply stopped functioning as Jimin's cyber attacks scrambled their systems. The Drethik fleet tried to respond, but they could not find targets. The human ships flickered in and out of normal space, striking and vanishing before the Drethik could even aim. It was not a battle. It was a demonstration. Within 6 hours, the Drethik military ceased to exist. Every warship disabled or destroyed, every weapon platform offline, every military base in ruins. The civilian population was untouched. Not a single non-military target was hit. Admiral Daeun watched from Earth as the reports came in. 0 human casualties. Complete Drethik military collapse. Mission accomplished. Send the second message, he ordered. Once again, every screen in Council space lit up. This time, it showed the Drethik homeworld surrounded by human ships. This is Director Ji-Ho Lee of Earth Strategic Defense Command. The Drethik Collective's military has been neutralized. Their civilians are unharmed. We did not come for genocide. We came for justice. The Drethik leadership will surrender themselves for trial. They will face consequences for their war crimes. This is not negotiable. Taemin appeared beside Ji-Ho on the screen. And to the Galactic Council, we say this. We are done asking for permission. We are done following rules that apply only to us. We are done being treated as children. You wanted to see humanity's true nature? Here it is. We are not conquerors. We are not monsters. But we are not your pets anymore either. The transmission ended. The galaxy reeled. In the council chambers on Centrum Prime, Speaker Vareth stared at the tactical reports in disbelief. How was this possible? Where had these ships come from? How had humanity hidden this? His communicator chimed. It was his military commander. Speaker, we are tracking human ships across every sector. They are not attacking, just watching, waiting. We count over 7,000 warships. Our entire fleet combined is only 4,000. Roth felt fear for the first time in his long life. They had pushed too hard. They had awakened something terrible, and it was just getting started. Council Fleet Commander Thek stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory, and watched as the largest armada in galactic history assembled around him. 47 species had contributed ships to this fleet. Over 6,000 warships, representing the combined military might of the Galactic Council. Vex was a Valkyrin, species known for military excellence. He had fought in 30 campaigns and never lost. Now he commanded an armada 10 times larger than the human fleet. The humans had maybe 7,000 ships, and most of those were probably barely functional. The Council had 6,000 warships, all proven in combat, all using tested technology. Speaker Vareth had given him simple orders: crush the human rebellion completely. Show them the price of defiance. Make an example that would last for generations. Dex studied the tactical display showing Earth's solar system. The humans had concentrated their forces there, defending their homeworld. It was a predictable move, emotional. They would sacrifice everything for Earth, which meant the battle would be over quickly. All ships report ready, his tactical officer announced. We await your command. Dex nodded. Jump to Earth? All ships? Weapons free. Show them the power of the Council. The massive fleet entered hyperspace, traveling faster than light toward humanity's homeworld. They would arrive in overwhelming force, destroy the human fleet, and then dictate terms. The humans would surrender or watch their planet burn. Simple, clean. Decisive, they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Vex smiled as his sensors detected the human fleet waiting near Earth, just as predicted. They were outnumbered. They were outgunned. They had nowhere to run. All ships advanced, Vex ordered. Maintain formation. Let them see what they face. The Council Armada moved forward, a wall of ships filling space. Dex opened a communication channel to the human fleet. This is Fleet Commander Vex of the Galactic Council. You are ordered to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your planet. The response came from Admiral Dayon Song. The human appeared on the screen, dressed in a simple uniform. He looked tired, almost sad. Commander Vex, Dayon said. You have one chance to turn around. Leave this system. Take your fleet and go home. Last warning. Vex laughed. The human was serious. He actually thought he could win. You are outnumbered 10-1. Your technology is primitive. Your fleet is a joke. Surrender now or die. Wrong, Dayon said simply. You have no idea what you are facing. But you are about to learn. Human ships suddenly changed. Their energy signatures spiked to levels that should have been impossible. Weapons ports opened that had not appeared on any scans. And then, behind the Council fleet, 3,000 more human ships appeared out of nowhere. The Ghost Fleet had been there all along. Invisible. Waiting, Commander Quano's voice came over the Council fleet's communication channel. You are surrounded. Your sensors cannot track our ships. Your weapons cannot lock onto our shields. This is your final chance. Surrender or be destroyed. Vix felt ice in his stomach, but he was a warrior. He had faced worse odds. All ships, engage. Fire at will. The battle began. And it was nothing like Vex expected. The human ships moved faster than anything the Council had ever built. They flickered in and out of space, appearing behind Council ships, firing, and vanishing before return fire could reach them. The weapons they used were beyond anything in Council databases. A human destroyer fired what looked like a simple missile. It struck a Council battleship, and the entire ship began to fall apart, its hull dissolving as billions of nanites consumed it from the inside out. Another human ship fired a beam of light that created a tiny black hole. The singularity lasted only a second, but it pulled in 3 Council ships before collapsing. On Earth's orbital defense grid, Commander Wunshin coordinated the planet's defenses. Massive railguns that could accelerate projectiles to near light speed. Energy shields that covered entire continents. Weapon platforms that had been disguised as communication satellites. All defensive batteries, fire at will, Woon ordered. Protect the homeworld. Space around Earth lit up with weapons fire. Council ships that got too close were hammered by coordinated strikes from multiple platforms. Their shields, designed to handle conventional weapons, failed against the quantum-charged rounds and energy beams that humanity had developed. Inside the Council fleet, chaos spread. Ships lost power as Jim and Beak's cyber attacks infiltrated their systems. Communication networks collapsed. Targeting computers failed. Ships found themselves unable to coordinate, unable to even see where their allies were. Jimin sat in her underground facility, her fingers dancing across holographic keyboards. She was inside the Council fleet's network, turning their own systems against them. Ships fired on each other by accident. Navigation computers gave false readings. Life support systems shut down and then rebooted, causing panic among crews. They never secured their military networks properly, she muttered. They assumed no one could infiltrate them. Mistake. Weapon designer Suji Han watched from the Strategic Command Center as her creations performed beyond even her expectations. The singularity cannons were devastating. The nanite swarms were unstoppable. But the most effective weapon was the quantum entanglement bombs. When one exploded near a council carrier, its mere position in the fleet also detonated. 2 ships destroyed with one weapon. The council had no defense against it because their science had not even theorized it was possible. The battle lasted 6 hours. In that time, the council fleet lost 60% of its ships. 3,600 warships destroyed or disabled. Crews evacuated into space, hoping for rescue. Commanders surrendering as their vessels fell apart around them. The human fleet lost 3 ships. 3 out of 7,000? And 2 of those were damaged by debris from destroyed council vessels, not by actual enemy fire. Commander Thex watched his fleet disintegrate around him. Ship after ship vanished from his tactical display. Desperate calls for help flooded his communication channels. Species that had never lost a battle were begging for permission to retreat. He had been so confident, so certain of victory. Now he understood the horrible truth. The humans had not been weak. They had been waiting, preparing, building weapons and strategies that made the Council's military look like children playing with toys. Admiral Daon's voice came over the channel again. Commander Thex, order your fleet to stand down now, or we will finish this. Dex looked at his tactical display. Half his fleet was gone. The rest was scattered, disorganized, unable to fight effectively. Behind him, Quan's ghost fleet had cut off all retreat routes. There was no escape. No reinforcements coming. No miracle that would save them. He had 2 choices: surrender or watch every ship under his command die. All council ships, he said, his voice breaking. Cease fire. Power down weapons. We surrender. The human ships stopped shooting immediately. Medical vessels appeared, offering aid to the damaged council ships. Recovery craft began picking up escape pods. The humans were not even gloating. They were just efficiently processing their victory. Captain Hannah Kim guided the horizon alongside a damaged Valkyrie cruiser, extending docking ports to evacuate the wounded. She opened a channel to the cruiser's captain. "We will get your crew to safety," she said. "You fought bravely, but this did not have to happen. You came to destroy us. We simply defended ourselves." On Earth, Director Jiho activated the planetary broadcast system. Every screen across the galaxy showed the battlefield. Thousands of disabled council ships, human vessels moving among them, offering assistance. The message was clear. "People of the galaxy," Jiho said, "today, the Council came to destroy humanity. They failed. We did not seek this fight. We tried peace for 83 years, but we will not be slaves. We will not be victims, and we will not be destroyed. The Council's military is broken. Their authority is finished. What comes next is up to you." Across the galaxy, species watched the broadcast in shock. The mighty Council, defeated in a single day. The humans, dismissed as weak and primitive, had crushed the greatest armada ever assembled, and in doing so, they had shattered the illusion of Council power forever. The Council chambers on Centrum Prime had never been occupied by foreign military forces. For 8,000 years, it had stood as the symbol of galactic authority. Now, human soldiers stood at every entrance. Commander Quano personally commanded the occupation force, ensuring that no council member could escape before facing justice. Tay-Min. Park walked through the massive doors, not as an ambassador seeking permission, but as humanity's representative coming to deliver judgment. Behind him came Director Jiho Lee, Admiral Daon Song, and dozens of other human officials. They carried data tablets filled with evidence, decades of crimes, centuries of abuse, the entire corrupt history of council rule. The remaining council members sat in their designated areas. But the atmosphere had changed completely. Species that had once looked down on humanity now avoided eye contact. The arrogance was gone, replaced by fear and uncertainty. Speaker Vareth still sat in his elevated position, though his scales had lost their shine. He looked older somehow, diminished. When Taemin approached the central podium, Vareth did not try to stop him. "For 8,000 years," Taemin began, his voice filling the chamber. "This council has claimed to represent justice, peace, civilization today. We will review what this council actually represents." Holographic displays activated throughout the chamber. Evidence began flowing across every screen. Authorized massacres, systematic exploitation of weaker species, financial crimes, weapons deals with criminal organizations, species enslaved under the guise of protection, the entire world stripped of resources while their populations starved. Intelligence Officer Mina Rue stepped forward, her voice clinical as she presented the findings. "We have documented 47 instances of genocide authorized by this council in the past 200 years. We have evidence of systematic economic exploitation affecting 112 species. We have proof that council leaders personally profited from arms sales that fueled conflicts they claimed to be mediating." One by one, the crimes were revealed. The chamber fell silent as species saw the truth of what had been done in their names. Some council members tried to protest, but the evidence was overwhelming. Every document was verified. Every transmission was authenticated. There was no denying it. Ambassador Lena of the Kelthrin people rose from her seat. The Kelthrin had been under council protection for 300 years. They had believed the council was helping them rebuild after a devastating war. "Is it true?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Did the council arrange the sabotage of our fusion reactors in 2298? We thought it was an accident. 2 million of my people died." Mina brought up the files. Transmissions between council leaders discussing how to keep the Kelthrin dependent, orders to sabotage their infrastructure to prevent them from becoming self-sufficient. Financial records showing how council members profited from Kelthrin. Mineral exports, while the Kelthrin themselves starved. Lena collapsed back into her seat, tears streaming down her face. Tay-Min let the evidence speak for itself. When the presentations finished, he looked around the chamber. "This is what the council truly is. This is what we endured for 83 years. This is what we refused to become." Varoth finally found his voice. "You think you are better? You have military power now. You will become exactly what we are. Power corrupts. You will see." "No," Tay-Min said simply. "We have seen what power without accountability creates. We have seen what happens when the strong exploit the weak. We will not repeat your mistakes." Jiho stepped forward. "Effective immediately, the Galactic Council is dissolved. All sitting members are suspended from authority pending investigation. Those found guilty of war crimes will face trial. Those found guilty of corruption will face prosecution. And those who enabled these crimes through inaction will answer to the species they failed." "We have the only authority that matters," Admiral Dayun said. "We have the ability to enforce justice, and we have the will to do so. Your authority came from fear and military force. You used it to oppress. Ours comes from the same source, but we will use it to protect." Over the following weeks, the trials began. Council members faced courts composed of representatives from the species they had exploited. The proceedings were broadcast across the galaxy. Every species could watch as the truth emerged. Some council members were sentenced to life imprisonment. Others faced execution for genocide. A few were found innocent of direct crimes, but guilty of enabling the system. They were stripped of authority and banned from governance. Vareth himself faced trial for authorizing the New Haven massacre and dozens of other crimes. The evidence was clear. The verdict was unanimous. He was sentenced to life imprisonment on a remote world, guarded by representatives from every species it wronged. But punishment was only part of humanity's plan. Tay-Min stood before a gathering of representatives from over 200 species. The council is gone. What replaces it is up to all of us. Humanity does not seek to rule. We seek to participate. We propose a new galactic assembly based on equal representation. No species has special authority. No species is above the law. All members have equal voice. The proposal was simple but revolutionary. Every species, regardless of military power or economic strength, would have the same voting rights. Decisions would be made by majority vote, not by the dictates of a few powerful members. Military action would require overwhelming consensus. Economic policy would be transparent and fair. We know this system can be abused, Jiho added. We know that democracy is imperfect. But it is better than tyranny, and humanity pledges to defend this system. Any species that attempts to recreate the old council's methods will face our military. We will be the shield that protects the weak. We will be the sword that strikes down oppressors. The vote was held. 193 species voted to join the new assembly. 47 abstained. None voted against. The old council species who had benefited from the corrupt system mostly chose to abstain. Uncertain of their place in this new order, the first act of the assembly was to establish reparations. Species that had been exploited would receive compensation. Worlds that had been stripped of resources would receive aid to rebuild. The funds came from seized council assets and from the former council species who agreed to pay for their crimes. The second act was to establish protection treaties. Humanity's fleet would defend any assembly member from aggression. In return, those species would contribute what they could to collective defense and would follow strict rules of engagement. The third act was to share technology. Humanity began releasing the innovations they had developed in secret. Medical advances, energy systems, agricultural techniques, not weapons, but tools for building better societies. Ambassador Lena of the Kelthrin approached Taman after one of the assembly sessions. Why are you doing this? You have the power to rule. You could demand tribute. You could force us to serve you. Why do you choose equality instead? Taman smiled. Because we remember what it felt like to be powerless. We remember the humiliation of begging for basic rights. We remember watching our people die while the powerful did nothing. We will not become what we hated. Unichoi stood in the rebuilt New Haven colony, watching as families returned to their homes. The settlement had been reconstructed with assembly support. Kelthrin engineers had helped design better infrastructure. Vulcan builders had donated materials. Species that had once served the council now worked together to heal the wounds the council had caused. At the center of the colony stood a memorial. 12,000 names carved in stone. The names of everyone who died when the council decided to teach humanity a lesson. Yuna lit an eternal flame beneath the memorial. You did not die in vain, she whispered. You showed us that we could not trust the council. You gave us the anger we needed to finally fight back. Because of you, the galaxy is better now. 50 years passed. The Galactic Assembly grew to include over 300 species. Trade flourished. Wars became rare. When conflicts arose, the Assembly mediated. When aggression threatened, humanity's fleet responded swiftly and decisively. Captain Hannah Kim, now an admiral, trained the new generation of defenders. The Ghost Fleet had become the Assembly Defense Force, crewed by volunteers from dozens of species. They protected the weak, enforced the peace, and ensured that no new council could rise. The old council species gradually rejoined the Assembly as equal members. Some adapted well to the new system. Others struggled with their loss of privilege. But none dared to challenge the new order. They had seen what happened when humanity was pushed too far. Tae-Min, now elderly but still sharp, sat in his office on Earth and reviewed reports from across the galaxy. Peace, prosperity, cooperation, things he had dreamed of during those terrible years as ambassador. Watching his people suffer under council rule, a young officer entered his office. Sir, the Drethic representative is here for the annual remembrance ceremony. Taman nodded. Every year on the anniversary of the New Haven massacre, representatives from every assembly species gathered to remember. The Drethic, who had committed the crime, participated in the ceremony as part of their ongoing reconciliation. The Drethic representative entered. His mandibles lowered in respect. Ambassador Park, I bring my people's continued apology for the crimes we committed.